I watched the Zietgeist movie and I was very impressed with the poetry expressed there. I had recognised it as an artistic expression first and certainly empathised with the political comment. When the addendum came out, I was very excited with the suggestion of removing the monetary system, but had not thought seriously of it until I saw the orientation presentation. After finished watching that, I felt to me like a shift in consciousness had taken place and understood its implication. And not only is it a desirable direction, but a necessary one. The mindset had shifted to a place that I always knew was there but could never properly communicate it. Now it is all obvious to me in the light of my experience as the life as I've lived it. I had never felt comfortable with the system that was being presented to me. I had chosen to retire from it at the age of 23. Then I had an invitation to live on a yoga ashram north of Sydney, and this was my entrance to real life. I had no intention to see it as anything religious, but rather as an experimental living situation. Although it did become an integral part of developing some spirituality, I rather come to understand yoga as an ancient science based on real facts, evidenced by my new enthusiasm for life, overall fitness, clearing up of all my teenage allergies. On the ashram, there were about 60 people. We lived in a totally self-sufficient manner. It was more exciting than the humdrum from which I was being indoctrinated, which I had considered no better than being a criminal. The criminal robs a bank, gets his money up the front, and then spends his life in jail. And a worker spends his life in jail, doesn't get any money till the end, which is really meant to die 2 years after retiring. However, on the community it was purely survival, none of these games. There was a hierarchy, which I took no notice of. It's just a game that other people play. I would notice people coming there thinking they were escaping from something. In reality, they can't escape from themselves because it's the dynamics between them and the outside world that creates their reality. Personally, I was more interested in the challenges of real life and how I could contribute. The rewards were a job well done or a difficult problem solved. Everything in the beginning was making do and creative hands-on problem solving. When something needed doing, it was often figuring out how to do it. Often resources would be needed to complete a task, or if they couldn't be found, you'd have to improvise. We did some amazing things. For example, the property which flooded, we decided to put buildings there, sensitive to the floods. And with all the soil, we carried it up the hills in buckets. Where it gets interesting and relevant to the direction of the Zietgeist movement is that no one living there actually touched any money. The money was sort of used to buy what was necessary for everybody. So we just sort of lived our lives and that was it. There was no money exchanged by anyone that was living there. So I enjoyed anything that I did because anything I did had to be done. I had first-hand experience of being motivated by the task at hand rather than any money. We produced everything we needed for survival within the community, and that is in the context of the immediate needs. I actually stayed there for about 8 years without the need to ever think in terms of money for survival. No one actually used money except to deal with the outside world. Everything that was needed was bought within the resources of a collective, which was easily satisfied. It's much easier functioning out of a cooperative than compared to an everybody for themselves. Life was complete within the structure of what was happening. At night we would discuss how we feel, what we felt was right and wrong. But all in the context of our immediate reality. Eventually I left because my need to play music was not being met, and the part of the bigger picture that I now understand that more clearly. I learned to enjoy what I did and thus earned the privilege of doing what I enjoy. So why I advocate the Zietgeist movement is because there are aspects of living without money that I can relate to. My focus is always what I do and never what I earn. As a result, one is not limited to what gets done. This is an integral part of invention and discovery. So now I'm living as a musician in Australia. For the past 25 years, I have mostly played music full time. I do spontaneous performances. I have always performed without a fee unless someone specifically wants me to play somewhere. All my earnings are donations without solicitation, thus the pure creative expression is preserved and the social conscience is exposed. I would dearly love not to be concerned with donations, for at that moment there is always a distraction where the people donating are interrupting what they're actually rewarding. This is because all the times I'm performing, I'm actually doing the best I can, and that's because my focus as a musician, being a musician rather than entertainer. This is all relative to what is possible in terms of multitasking. In a resource-based economy, a person then can truly give freely of themselves once all the needs are met. In the present society, I do it despite the sick system. This is all I can do on a personal level. My reward is finding someone who is touched and inspired. I'm very grateful for being supported, and I see this as a measure of social health. In today's society, music has more to do with fashion, and in this case, technology interferes with human needs and becomes an inhibiting satisfier. Art, craft, and music is really a tool for communication, inspiration, and self-discovery. Instead, it has been hijacked for the purpose of consumerism and glamour, devoid of any human motor skill and replaced with marketing. Thus, the artist was displaced by recording because an object for sale is preferable than someone actually doing anything, adding to the reality distortions created by the profit system. Rather than a special moment, everyone is subjected to endless white noise, numbing their perceptions altogether. I will summarise a few of these potentials. My own expertise is as a solo instrumentalist, and being a solo instrumentalist, I maximise my individual output, where what's humanly possible is challenged to the max. Upon taking this challenge, then finding the opportunity to share it, there's always a gift to the receiver, which the receiver can then choose to receive. It's a wordless experience. It has several functions. The space of reflection is the space where ideas come in. It's good to have the experience free from normal intellectual activity. It's good to give yourself time to listen without judgment, to witness any emotion that arises. The focus and attention of an audience to performer can improve the performance, creating mutual benefit. So what I describe here is not exclusive to the arts, but true for every human endeavour, whether it be mundane, creative, academic or scientific. It can be true for most jobs. Thus, the original skill that was needed to be famous as a musician was replaced by celebrity, where technology was used to replace the skill. The copyright for a musician used to be their ability to play. Now it's a paper proclamation for a nursery rhyme. The conditioning for most people is being a spectator rather than a doer. And the aversion for hard work is enforced when people realise that if they can make money without actually doing anything, they will choose that. Then they lose the opportunity to become skillful and the joy of the fulfilment with success. This is all relevant to my connection to the Zietgeist movement and the removal of money. The shift in value comes when someone aspires to improve themselves for what they can give, for this is what a person gives For it's what a person gives that creates the commonwealth. The greater the commonwealth, the more the individual can benefit. The commonwealth, I feel, is expressed as a resource-based economy. This is what people who actually do something give. The competition that was imposed upon musicians just trying to survive, I feel, is an integral part in destroying the harmony that was needed to make good music. And it's demonstrated by my experience with the jamming that people do, the fact that people use backing tracks instead of real musicians. I find it's very difficult to find musicians who are actually able to listen to each other, and they don't compromise, they just play over the top of each other and when they're jamming. Point here is that the profit consumer system has been of such a detriment to everybody, and now the whole thing's coming apart. I'm very excited now with a new way of thinking. Hope that at last we can move out of this absolutely dysfunctional social system towards something that embraces some sort of efficiency and intelligence. Hopefully we can stop competing against each other and create a cooperacy.